Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Online Smicha. In the season when everybody does traveling, vacation time, etc., etc., it is proper to review some of the halachas that are connected to travelers. The first thing that comes to your mind, obviously, is the bracha of Tfilas HaDerech, when it applies, as you see in Shulchan Aruch, in Orach Chaim Siman Kuf Yud. So, even though back then, many generations ago, many years ago, there were many more problems and many more dangers during the traveling. Today it seems to be, Baruch Hashem, much more safe than it used to be. Still, and especially in the text of the bracha that we say in Tfilas HaDerech, we ask that Hashem should protect us from listim and chayes rois, the wild animals and thieves and robbers and all those things, which today's days, Baruch Hashem, it's not as it was back then. Still, the halachas still do apply, because in every generation, every time, there is the other dangers that I have to ask in the bracha Hashem for His protection. But yet there are certain details that, as it's mentioned, for example, that we'll soon speak about. It's preferable to leave. Even in Shulchan Aruch it says it's preferable to come and go, leaving to the trip and coming to your destination during daytime. That's because you'll be able to see better, etc., etc. Now the question becomes, or the poskim of today say, that this is all if you're traveling the way they used to travel back then. But if you're traveling now in a plane or in a train where day and night doesn't really make a difference, so the chashas, the doubts, the problems that you're concerned about don't really apply. So let's discuss some of the things that are, quote unquote, you read between the lines, or the achrayim discuss how a person could prepare himself, or what should he do to have a safe travel. First of all, there is an interesting Gemara, and that's not necessarily brought in halacha, but the Gemara says in Masechta Chulin, Daf Tzaddik Amud Beis, the Gemara talks about Rav, the great Ameir Rav. The Rav once was sitting near at a bridge near water, and he saw a stream. He saw a wave of water coming towards him. So Rav said, "Oh, the fact that I see water coming towards me, that's a siman tov. That's a good sign that the trip that I'm going to take will be a successful trip." And Chazal learn from this, or Rashi says clearly, "Shesiman tov." It's a good sign la'ovrei drachim, for those who travel. When you see water coming towards you, that's a siman tov that everything is going to go fine. And the Chassam Sofer in Parshas Balak writes that when a person sees that he's preparing for a trip and everything is going smooth, and generally that's considered a siman tov. If you're seeing you're having a lot of difficulties, slow down a little. Now, what do you prepare? What do you take along when you go on a trip? Obviously, there will be a difference if you're going for a long trip or you're going somewhere, you'll be back this afternoon, this evening. But in general, we all know the basics that you have to take. And we'll soon see the Mishnah Berurah in Siman Kuf Yud says that whenever you travel, you should take a talis and tefillin, because you can never know how long the traveling will take. If you're going, of course, if you're going shopping nearby, it wouldn't need to do that. But if you're going a little longer distance, and you might not find tefillin where you have to go, it might extend your travels, the Mishnah Berurah says it's best to bring tefillin along. But this is interesting. There are a lot of people that just take for granted. Okay, get in the car, and they go from point A to point B. Somehow we're going to manage. They don't take along food. They don't take along money. That's very not smart. Eshtens, it says in many svarim that you should take, and again, it's mentioned in Siman Kuf Yud, a person should always take along some food and even some water. The Mishnah Berurah, again, in Siman Kuf Yud says, Yizar kol adam sheyiyeh pas. A person should always have some bread around when he's traveling. Afilu haylech l'makom karev, even if he's going to a close place, and a place where if you're hungry, you might be able to buy bread. Because many times, Rachmana litzlan, things can happen unexpected. Now, does the Mishnah Berurah mean specifically bread? So the Achrayim say that it's even cake would do also. Because as long as the Aruch HaShulchan says, as long as you have something to, in case you get very hungry, you have something, some food. Now, taking money. People think, I'll manage, I'll figure it out, I'll take a hitch, I'll get from, There's an interesting Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi in Masechta Yuma, Perek Dalet Halacha Aleph says, Toiv la'adam, it is the right thing for a person to do, that when he goes on a travel, he goes on a journey, he should travel along with money that he needs for the traveling. Don't be a Ober Chacham and say, it'll be fine, because you can never know what you'll need. So make sure you have some money for taxis, some money, make sure you have some money for food, just in case the unexpected happens. And you should take along water, as I said, to wash your hands, etc., etc. The Sifsei Chachamim, an interesting Sifsei Chachamim, in Chumash Devarim, Perek Chaf Aleph, Pasuk Yud Gimel, the Sifsei Chachamim says, it's minhag ha'olam, somehow it became the custom of the world, that when you travel, you don't wear your fancy suit and your fancy clothing. So it's minhag ha'olam lehilavesh bidrachim im begadim bezuyim, that you wear the cheapest clothing, the simplest clothing when you travel. Fine, maybe that's the most comfortable, but to look cheap and to look disrespectful, it's pasnished for a fruma yid, it's pasnished for a ben Torah. So you have to be careful that even if you're getting into comfortable clothing, it shouldn't be because you're traveling and you don't want to get something creased or dirty. It shouldn't be disrespectful clothing. Now, what does the Shulchan Aruch say? So in the Shulchan Aruch Harav, in Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, Siman Kuf Yud, Seif Tes, he says like this, besides for the general halacha of Tfilas HaDerech, he says, Hayoytze l'derech, when a person is about to travel, so he should have a blessing that he'll be safe. Toiv sheyito reshus migdolei ir, it's best that he should get permission from the leaders, from the gedolim of that city, afal pi she'enam rabbosav, even if they're not his teachers, kidei sheyirvachu. So they should give him a bracha, and when they give him the bracha, you have a bracha walking with you. And we always know that there's some say, and this was a common practice by the Rebbe, that he would give shliach mitzvah, he'd give you a dollar for tzedakah, or some amount of money for tzedakah, because you become a shliach mitzvah. Chazal say, shluchei mitzvah ein in the zoikim. That's another security that you'll get to your place safe and sound. In some svarim, I think it's in the Steichemet, he says that when you go to a tzaddik and you get a bracha for your travel, there's actually an inyan to kiss his hand, and that also increases the security. Now the Shulchan Aruch goes on to discuss how the bracha should be said, because in one way it sounds very positive, good things happen. If he doesn't pronounce it, he doesn't say it the right way, it's not the biggest bracha. Then the Alter Rebbe says like this, and when you're traveling, Yasik b'Torah, don't forget to study Torah. And when you travel, because you have to see what's in front of you, don't learn things that you have to learn very in depth, iyun halacha, unless you're not driving the car, unless you don't need to have tremendous focus. Somebody else is leading the agala, then you're fine. Another thing, al yoichal b'derech yoser mishir achil shnei ra'avin. Don't overeat. Don't overeat before you get into the car, before you get into the travel. And even during the traveling, it's not healthy to eat, because Rahman al it leads to sickness. Unless you're in a boat, Alter Rebbe says. And when he comes into a city, Lolund, to rest overnight, he should try to do it, Yikanes B'chi Toiv. He should try to come in when it's still light. V'yetze B'chi Toiv. And he should leave next morning when it's light. Why? Because Shema Yipo Ba'achas Abchasim, we're afraid during the nighttime you can't see all the ditches, all the potholes, etc. So it's safe to travel during the day. Avol Samach Le'irei, when he gets closer to his town, where he knows where all the ditches and all the potholes are, then he could travel even at night. So therefore, some Achronim say today where the highways, obviously if you have a choice to go at night, a highway that has lights, if you're not going to a place that you know the ways, you're just following directions, then you should make sure that the streets, the highways, are lit with lights. If not, you have this chashash of falling into a trap somewhere. And then there's another thing that the Alter Rebbe doesn't mention here. The thing is, a person should try to travel at night. There's an Indian that Talmud Chacham doesn't go out at night by himself. It's a sakana. So all these issues, again, like I mentioned before, a lot of the problems don't not necessarily apply today anymore because the highways and the roads have lights. But mitzad the bracha, mitzad what the security, and therefore tzaddikim used to say, take along something with you as a protection. Take along a talis, take along tzitzis. So if to have the bracha of Hashem, that the journey should be a successful one, we follow these halachas.